Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Treasury of Constantinople. This week we'll talk about, as I promised a while ago, Byzantine mints. This video will have a bit of a different style from the last one, but I hope you'll still find it interesting, so let's get into it. Last time we stopped around the reign of Leo I, who closed all the remaining mints of the empire except for the one in Constantinople. In 498, Anastasius reformed the coinage, and during his reign he reopened the mints of Thessalonica, Nicomedia, and Antioch. Justin I, Anastasius's successor, reopened two mints, Cyzicus and Alexandria. Then Justinian I reopened three more mints, Carthage, Rome, and Ravenna, and established a mint in Kherson. Marius Tiberius opened a mint in Syracuse. These 11 mints are the most important mints of the Byzantine Empire. During its 1,000-year history, there were, of course, many other mints in operation in the empire, but those were only for brief periods of time. In any case, let's have a look at them too. After the recovery of some of the western regions of the empire by Justinian, mints were also established there, for example Cartagena in modern-day southern Spain, as well as Naples and Sardinia. Still in the 600s, a number of mints were established during Heraclius's revolt against the very unpopular Emperor Phocas. Those include the mints at Alexandretta, Jerusalem, and Constantia in Cyprus. Coins from these small mints are extremely rare and very expensive. Something easier to find are coins from the mint of Catania, also located in the island of Sicily like the Syracuse mint, or coins from the very short-lived mints of Seleucia Isauria and Isara. The mint at Seleucia Isauria was established in 615 by Heraclius, with the purpose of covering the costs of the eastern army that was waging war against Sassanid Persia. In 617, it was transferred to Azara, and it closed 2 years later. Before we continue, let's take a look at the fate of the main mints. In the 6th century, a number of mints closed as the Byzantine Empire lost territory to the Muslims. Those include Antioch in 610, Nicomedia and Cyzicus in 630, Alexandria in 642, and Carthage in 695. The mint of Thessalonica was closed around 630, presumably because of the constant threats from the Slavs and Bulgarians. It was later reopened by Alexius I. The Kherson mint was also closed in the early 600s as the port city was taken by the Khazars. It would later be reconquered in the 9th century and resume operations. The mint of Rome stopped minting Byzantine coins in 751 when the city finally broke away from the Byzantine sphere of influence. It's important to note that Byzantine influence in Rome had been small, very small, for well over a century. The mint of Ravenna also closed in 751 when the city fell to the Lombards. Ravenna, unlike Rome, did have somewhat stronger ties with the empire, as it was the seat of the Exarchate of Italy. The Syracuse mint closed in 878 when the city finally fell to the Arabs. Note that before the establishment of the mint, coins were sent over from Constantinople and then counterstamped with the letters SCL. There are many coins like these around. Some are very nice and the price is not too bad. In the 12th century, mints were set up in Nicosia and Philadelphia by the usurpers Isaac Komnenos and Theodore Mangaphazon, respectively. In the year 1204, the Crusaders conquered and thoroughly sacked Constantinople. Then they established what they hoped would be the new Roman Empire, nowadays known as the Latin Empire of Constantinople. It was a sorry excuse of a state which lasted for 57 years, much longer than it should have, and most of its emperors died horrible deaths, which they probably deserved. Did I mention that by the time they left, the population of Constantinople was down to 35,000 people? A considerable number if you compare it to European cities, but just a small, tiny fraction of the low estimate of 400,000 people that lived in the city before they came around. Where were we? Oh, yes, sack of Constantinople. After that, the Byzantines retreated to Nicaea. Without their capital and its mint, the only solution was to set up a mint in Nicaea, which they did around 1208. In 1214, it was transferred to Magnesia, where the treasury of the empire was. Meanwhile, back in Constantinople, the Latin emperors melted the ancient statues of the city of Constantine to make their stupid bronze coins. Some of these statues were so old. They had been brought by Constantine himself almost 1,000 years before. Anyway, during this time, there was also probably a mint at Arta, capital of the Despotate of Epirus. After the Byzantines got Constantinople back, the other mints were closed, and they went back to minting all their coins in the capital for another 2 centuries, when the empire finally, at long last, fell to the Muslims. So a short recap: in the mid-400s, Leo I closed the few remaining mints and left only Constantinople. In the following century, several mints were reopened, going up to 11 major mints. By the end of the 7th century, though, only 2 mints, Constantinople and Syracuse, remained in service, as the rest were in territories conquered by the Umayyads. The mints at Constantinople and Syracuse continued in use until the end of the 9th century, when Syracuse too fell, leaving only Constantinople for another 3 centuries, when Constantinople was taken by the Crusaders. The Mint of Constantinople remained active between 1204 and 1261, issuing coins for the Latin emperors, while the Byzantines retreated to Nicaea, where they set up their mint, moving it to Magnesia a few years later. After throwing out the Latin emperors, Constantinople went back to being the only mint of the empire until its fall in 1453. Let's now have a look at the mint marks. The good thing about Byzantine mint marks is that they're even easier than late Roman ones. On top of that, there are no random letters either before or after. So, for example, while Cyzicus in the time of Constantine could have a mint mark like SMKB, after Anastasius it was a very simple and self-explanatory KYZ. The mint mark for Constantinople was CON, Nicomedia, NIK, or NIKO, and on smaller denominations like the half-follis or pentanomium you can find NI or just N. Thessalonica was TES, or less frequently the same, but with Greek letters. After the mint was closed and then reopened by Alexius, the coins no longer show any mint marks, so the only way to know is checking the obverse and reverse designs on a book like Sears Byzantine coins and their values. We'll talk about that before the end of the video. The mint at Antioch, one of the biggest during the late Roman period, was also one of the main mints during the Justinian dynasty. Most coins minted at Antioch in this time have the mint mark THU, P, THEUP are the same, but in Greek. This is short for Theopolis, the new name Justinian gave to the city after a massive earthquake in 526. Before that, it had the mint mark Antic, or the Greek Antic. Alexandria pretty much always had the Greek mint mark ALEX, but for coins minted in Alexandria after Anastasius's reform, you don't really need to worry about the mint mark because the denominations used there are completely different. Another mint that played by its own rules was Kherson. Some coins minted there did have mint marks in Greek, but it's much easier to identify Kherson coins by their design, which is very unique, as well as their funky denominations. They're rare and very expensive though, which is a shame. Next we have Constantia in Cyprus with the mint marks KYP or CPR. Ravenna has RAV and Rome ROM. Note that as we mentioned before, Rome by this time had the loosest of relationships with the empire, and coins minted in Rome are very rare. Finally, we have Carthage with CAR or KAR, and Catania with CAT. Syracuse was too cool for mint marks. In the beginning, there was no mint in Syracuse. Coins were imported from Constantinople, and counterstamped with the letters SCL. After the mint was established, coins bore the mint mark SCL, but soon after they dropped the mint mark altogether, so you can only tell by the design. Before we move on to the next topic, I'd just like to make a note about where to find the mint marks. For the follies, it's very easy. As we've seen on the previous slides, it's always at the bottom. For the half-follis, it's sometimes in the same place, especially for types with Roman numerals. More commonly, though, the mint mark is abbreviated and is between the lower legs of the K. During the reigns of Anastasius, Justin I, and Justinian I, some of the half-follies have the mint mark on the left around the cross, and on rare occasions there is no mint mark at all, so you can only tell by the design. As for the decanumians, most don't have mint marks. In the ones that do, you can see them in the same place as on the follies. Lastly, the vast majority of pentanomians also don't have mint marks. Notable exceptions are some of the earlier types, minted during the reigns of Anastasius and Justin I, as well as some of the types from the Western mints. After the 20 years anarchy period that ended in 717 AD, very few half-follies were minted, and there were no longer any decanomians or pentanomians to speak of. On top of that, the active-only mints were Constantinople and Syracuse, so mint marks started disappearing from bronze coinage. From the beginning of the Macedonian dynasty is 867. Only the Constantinople mint was in use. From then on, there are no mint marks at all. Before, I said that there are no random letters around the mint mark, so where are the workshop marks then? Well, for the follies, on the vast majority of cases you can see it below the M. Sometimes, though, there is no workshop mark, like on this coin from Tiberius II, or even more bizarre, the workshop mark can be found to the right of the M where the regnal year usually is, like on this coin from Phocis. Half-follis don't always have workshop marks. The ones that do are either earlier types that don't have the regnal year, so the workshop mark is to the right of the K, or later types that don't have a mint mark, so the workshop mark is between the lower legs of the K. Decanomians very, very rarely have workshop marks. Here are a few examples of types that do. Likewise, pentanomians also rarely ever show workshop marks. Here are some examples of types that do. As for the inner workings of Byzantine mints, it's hard to say, just like for the Roman mints. One thing I could find, for example, was that the mint of Constantinople in the 5th century had 10 workshops specialized in gold coinage and 5 in bronze coinage. Silver coins were also minted, but not in large quantities. I have not mentioned any gold or silver coins up to now, and our videos in fact focus only on bronze coins, since that's what Adelaide sells on her eBay store and what she's familiar with. Gold coins are also beyond the budget of most collectors, so it has less practical relevance. In any case, if you'd like to learn more about the silver and gold coins of the Byzantine Empire, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to research the topic and publish a video about it if there's popular demand. I mentioned before funky denominations and special designs. The thing is, as centralized as the Byzantine Empire was, and as coherent as Byzantine coinage was, some mints just seem to have had an attitude of, we do what we want to do. So let's have a look. First up is Alexandria. The Mint of Alexandria, for some reason, only minted coins in multiples of 3 nummi, so 3, 6, and 12 nummi. During the reign of Justinian I, they even minted a 33 nummi coin. 12 nummi coins are the most common, with examples from several emperors. Curson, if you didn't notice before, is Adelaide's favorite mint. They clearly liked the number 5 over there, as besides minting pentanomians, as well as some follies and half-follis, the Curson mint is the only one to mint 8 pentanommy coins, technically the same as a follis, 8 times 5 is 40, and 4 pentanommy coins, again, the same as a half-follis, 4 times 5 is 20. The design of the coins is also very unique. After it was reopened in the 9th century, the Curson mint mostly produced a small bronze coin called a flat, considerably less interesting, but considerably more different. Unique denominations also came out of the Thessalonica mint, which minted 1.5, 2, 4, 8, and 16 nummia, in addition to the normal denominations. The 16 nummi coin is the most common of the lot, though less common than the 12 nummi from Alexandria, so it's more expensive and harder to find in good condition. As for the Carthage mint, so far away from Constantinople, in addition to the normal denominations, it also minted, on occasion, nummus and 2 nummi coins. And overall, the obverse types of the coins minted in Carthage are quite unique, very different from the Eastern mints. The same is true of the Italian mints, Ravenna and Rome. They aren't exactly distinctive like the coins from Curson, but if you're very used to seeing coins from Constantinople, Antioch, Nicomedia, and so on, then you come across one from Ravenna or Rome, you'd be able to tell immediately. Another interesting thing is that Rome and Carthage are the only mints that use V for the pentanomian, even as they were using the Greek letters M and K for the follis and half-follis. The last topic I'd like to talk about is Seer's reference numbers. When you buy Byzantine coins, many will have a reference number that looks like Seer 1635 or SB 1635 or SBCV 1635. David Seer wrote a book called Byzantine Coins and Their Values in the 1980s. In this book, he cataloged all the Byzantine coin types and assigns them numbers. Because there aren't nearly as many Byzantine coin types as there are late Roman types, the book only has 1 volume. Also, I don't think the numbers even get to 2000, which means it's relatively easy to find what you're looking for. Seer's book can be bought for around $50, but you can also check the Internet Archive that has a copy of it. You need to have an account to access the book though, but it's completely free. Just a warning, Sears' book is a catalog, not really something that you want to read, but more like something you check when you need. Otherwise you'll just end up falling asleep, drooling all over the book. You get the picture. I'll leave in the description a link to a very nice website. It's like a Google version on the book. You have all the coins and then can search by the reference, emperor, denomination, or the mint. It's great. Check it out. And that's it for this one. If we made any mistakes or missed anything important about this topic, please leave a nicely worded comment below. Have a nice morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this video. And I hope to see you next time. Also, if you like collecting coins, or know someone who does, feel free to check out Adelaide's eBay store, the Spanish Galleon. We're also on Instagram. Links in the description.